Now that the Duke basketball season is over, we start to turn our attention to the upcoming season, the 2025-2026 campaign for Duke men's basketball. Who's staying? Who's going? Those questions will begin to be answered over the next few days. This is a brand new Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thanks for being here with us today on Thursday, April 10th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. We talk a whole lot about this Duke men's basketball team and a couple of other sports here and there. But now that the year has come to a close, still just a week removed from, less than a week removed from Duke's season ending there at the Final Four at the hands of the Houston Cougars. So trying to process all of that and look forward to next season, what that could look like. Brian Horace from Duke Blogger is going to join us here on the program today. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Go ahead and make sure that you also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like these videos, share it with your friends, as your support means so much to us here on Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, very excited to bring him on into today's program. The aforementioned Brian Horace is back with us. And man, what an end to the season it was for Duke. I didn't think it would happen. So many others didn't feel like it would take place. And yet here we are. We're not the 2025 national champions, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one team that goes home happy, and it wasn't us this season, and that's okay. It's a good year by all measurements, and you can only just look at it and just appreciate it for what it was,
Yeah, and I think we'll be able to do that the further removed from the game that we get it. Still, just so you think and you see the images and people are still celebrating the Florida title that was, and thinking about what this Duke team was certainly capable of and the manner in which that they lost. That's been the big debate that I've seen all along. Let me hear you throw out a point here. Are you more stunned that Duke lost or stunned in the manner in which they lost that basketball game? And truthfully, Brian, every other day it feels like I'm switching what side of that aisle I'm on.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely – I thought they'd win the game for sure. I did not think – but if you've watched Houston all year, that's sort of their thing. They won a lot of their close games in the margins, either be it rebounding, baseline out of bounds plays, things like that. So I'm not so much shocked in the way that it went down, but that it got to that point where it was going to be decided by that, a couple of plays like that. That's where I was more, shocked, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, just a crazy finish. I mean, the fact that we're not able to inbound the basketball and the rebounding that was there. I think the battle of the glass and the number of offensive rebounds that Houston got early on, it was happening, and yet Duke was still able to kind of build up a lead a little bit. They still kept finding ways to get offensive rebounds, and unfortunately, at the end of the game, that kind of created those extra possessions and opportunities for Houston to get those shots up.
Exactly, and I think that's going to be one of the things that, sort of each player looks back on like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And I think those are the tougher things to deal with when you lose a game in a close way in for, effort plays. And that's the kind of thing that's a little harder to deal with, obviously more so for the players than anyone else. But all you can do is grow and learn from it.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Now you've got a chance to see what players are going to come back and have that opportunity to grow and learn from it. But beyond the player side, I think this is also an opportunity. He'd be the first to tell you for John Shire to sort of sit there and think about it and grow and learn from things like this. When you look at this loss, that's got to be one that's going to be eaten. It hurts you and I. It hurts all the Duke basketball fans out there. I can't imagine how much this one is hurting him.
Oh, for sure. And he was the first to admit after the game that he didn't do enough to help the team. And, it's one of those things where sometimes you have to have a trial by fire where you learn these things the hard way. And, it's going to make him tougher, next year and the years, that come after. And that's what you hope to happen after this. You can take it one of two ways. It can be defeating to you going forward, or it can be, a jumping off point where, okay, now we know that we have to win in the margins. I have to get these guys ready, and I have to be ready for something like that to happen. And so I think knowing and seeing Shire's trajectory, that's what's going to happen going forward.
How did you feel about the last play and the look that Cooper Flagg got there when Duke was down 1?
You know what? I'll take that look any day of the week. You know, it was less about the look than it was about having to come down to having that look.
Right.
So I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think the fact that we were even in that position, and then you've got one more chance down 3 with 3 seconds left. A little bit surprised that it was a baseball pass to try and get down the floor, as opposed to maybe working with a dribble or two and put yourself in a better position to fire one up there. Because I mean, by the time the ball kind of bounced around to Proctor, it's all he could do to put something up there.
Exactly, without a doubt.
So looking at this Duke basketball team and the season coming to a close, obviously we saw Cooper Flagg recognized, winning all these major awards as we expected to. His freshman year is now in the books, and when we look back on it, I think he's made quite the case as one of the best Duke basketball freshmen of all time.
Without a doubt. I don't think you can really argue that point. He won everything. He played amazingly. You know, for a kid that turned 18 in December, to be that dominant and to check that many boxes in his game, be it leading in rebounding, points, assists, blocks. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, he literally did everything on the basketball floor for that Duke basketball team, which we certainly appreciate, and going to miss him wearing that number 2 jersey. Still waiting for his official word heading off to the NBA, but we know that is likely to come for Mr. Flagg. So let's talk about a few more of those decisions set to be made with the Duke basketball team, and we'll do that after we take our next break here on today's show of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and it's where you need to get in on the action as the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into the player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has it all in so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win super big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we're moving forward here on the program today. JJ Jackson with my pal Brian Horace from Duke Blogger talking about the end of the year for the Duke basketball team. And we've got our Locked On scholarship charts here for the Duke basketball program. Big jump as now the NCAA allows 15 scholarships in basketball compared to 13 in previous seasons. And of course, as this is laid out, it's assuming every single player on the roster sets themselves up to play all 4 years college basketball. We know the likelihood that does not happen in many of these instances. But early looks right now, Duke's got 13 scholarships for next season, assuming that you've got a senior Proctor and Malik Brown, a junior Caleb Foster, sophomores Darren Harris, Isaiah Evans, Cooper Flagg, Pat Gomber II, Con Knippel, and Kamal Malawach, and then the 4 freshmen coming in. When you sort of look at these things, Brian, and start to think about what next year's squad would look like, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking some of those faces won't be there.
This is going to change a good bit. Yep.
That's obviously to be expected with, the level of talent that Duke had going in. I love the 4 freshmen that are coming in. They all bring different things to the table. Right now I know Duke is focused on retention, and hopefully they can retain a few of those guys in yellow and blue there. And
yes,
definitely make life a lot easier for Coach Shire.
All right, so let's get into it. Obviously, Cooper Flagg is somebody that's likely headed off to the NBA, has done everything he can in the college game and setting himself up to be the #1 pick in the draft. I think the biggest question at this point is getting to the middle of May when that draft lottery comes around to figure out which team's going to get lucky and have the opportunity to draft Cooper Flagg, right?
Indeed. I mean, I think it'll probably be, a 3-team race. Wizards, Hornets, and Utah, I believe.
Yeah, Utah's down
there. Those are
yep.
the teams that are likely. I mean, none of them are necessarily desirable, but it's, you got to get in the league, to get paid. So, or to get paid that amount, get to that second contract. So, And no matter who you go to, it's going to be a bad team. You're the number one pick. So,
but an opportunity for Cooper to play right away and kind of make an impact.
Exactly. And that's kind of what you want. That's what's going to get you that second contract where you make that generational wealth, get into that second contract. And wherever he goes, he's going to be a player right away, and he'll be able to honestly make other guys better, which is something that a lot of players coming into the NBA don't necessarily have a skill set to do. To be able to affect the game in every category.
All right, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I would assume that the way Con Knippel played throughout the course of the season, and just kind of looking at these draft big boards and mock drafts out there, many people think he's a top 10, top 15 pick at the next level. He's been said before. There are conversations that were heard with his parents talking about, and there's a story coming out that in June last year, he saw Jared McCain get drafted one and done, and how cool that was, and wanting to put the work in. I think it's all lining up for him to take advantage of this opportunity to go ahead and head to the league.
I'd be completely shocked if that did not happen.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why he needs a second year with the way he shoots the ball, the way his effort plays, his size on the perimeter. I don't really see much hope for him coming back to Duke for a second season. And I think he's earned that.
And with his ability to shoot the basketball, it feels to me like he's a guy that's, kind of plug and play as well. Like, not sure how the lottery is going to shake up and kind of where those first few picks go. But Knippel, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's getting to play a ton his rookie year.
Yeah. I mean, shooting is always at a premium in the NBA. And if you can do that, you can stick.
Yeah, you get playing time for sure. All right. And then Malawach, another guy projected kind of really early in the drafts. I would expect him to go ahead and make that decision to head off to the NBA. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree completely. I think, that's been sort of the plan all along for Kaman. And, I know he didn't have, the ending of the season as, stat wise that he would have wanted, but I think his skill set projects to be much better in the league than necessarily in college. And I think he didn't really get a chance to show all of what he can do at Duke. And I think you're going to see that going forward when he gets into the next level.
You remember in the summer, there was the videos of Derek Lively, Mark Williams back on campus, and they spent some time kind of working out with Malawach and that sort of thing. And I think about the impact that all three of those guys were able to have wearing that Duke uniform and how much they're playing for their NBA teams already. Now, Malawach has put together a freshman year that has warranted him the opportunity to be one of those top 10 picks. Duke's putting together quite a sales pitch for future bigs right now, man. It's cool to see.
You cannot deny that. They've become big man university, they've always been put the wings in the league, and those wings have done well. Now they're really putting together a strong case for being one of the best big man, programs in the country.
What would you say are the biggest things teams are going to want Malawach to improve on?
I think his toughness, his rebounding, obviously, but he's a great screen setter. He's a good role man, obviously, but he's going to have to get a little stronger and tougher. But I mean, you'd expect that from any 18-year-old kid jumping into the league.
Yeah, everybody's shooting as well at the next level. I'm curious if there's more work to be, obviously he didn't attempt a whole lot of threes, and the percentages weren't always great for Malawach when he took them. 5-10 years from now, I'm really intrigued to see what his game looks like and how often he is kind of out there in the short corners shooting three ball for a team.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, if you watched him like I did in some of the African League games that he played in, he was, a bit more of a shooter there because, almost everybody he played with was his size, and he was able to do some, some mid-range stuff, some 3-point stuff. So it's not, something that's foreign to him. So I think we'll definitely see more of that once he gets to the league for sure.
Fair point. When you've got as big of a size advantage as he had in the college game, why not just throw it up to the rim and let him work there?
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure he'll spend most of his time doing that, in the NBA, but the ability to drift back is going to be something that, we see from him, going forward, I think, at the next level.
Brian, looking at the NBA opportunities here for players, feels like we've got a pretty big decision for Tyrese Proctor to make.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you have to wonder, he had a much better year this year than last year.
Sure.
He went through the year, fairly healthy. He improved in the areas that he needed to improve in. So you have to wonder, does he think, if I come back for another season, am I really going to jump up the draft boards anymore? Is there that much more for me to get better at? And I'm not sure that the answer is yes there. So I would be surprised if he came back to school. and and not to say Duke wouldn't love to have him back.
Yeah.
Obviously, having a senior guard is a blessing in the college game nowadays. But I think he, will probably. I'd expect him to make the decision to jump, and I completely support that decision as a fan and as someone who's watched him grow year from year from year. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'd be surprised if he returns to Duke. I'd be really surprised if he returns to college basketball, but decides to transfer and play elsewhere. That hurt. I mean, with what he's meant to this Duke team, being there for the first 3 seasons of John Shire as the head coach, the bond that they have, I would hope that he just goes ahead and takes that professional opportunity rather than trying to play ball at the next level. But totally understand he's got to make whatever decision's best for him. It's just like, I can only picture that guy in a Duke jersey. We said the same thing about Jeremy Roach, though. So,
yeah, but I mean, at the very least, Jeremy Roach played 4 years at Duke.
Sure. We got his degree and everything there. Yeah, good stuff. All right, looking at this as well, then I think a lot of people assume somebody like Malik Brown returns for his senior season. Hopefully he can have a full year of good health for the Duke basketball team to make an impact going into the next year. But then Caleb Foster and Isaiah Evans are what many people deem to be kind of their wild cards out there.
Yeah, both have had, their playing time, go up and down at times. I know for Foster, he came on really strong at the end of the season, really, embraced his role and, ended up earning more minutes. And he was honestly crucial in Duke's run to get to the Final Four. And, one would hope that he sees himself, with that at that guard spot starting for Duke next season, because I believe if he comes back, that's his role. I think he's the starting guard on that team. And I with a full off season of health, which he did not have this past season,
right?
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'd love to see Foster back, and then also Isaiah Evans with his ability to get hot so quickly and his shooting touch from the outside, the percentages that he had last year. I think he immediately could be a much greater offensive weapon and like a focal point of what Duke wants to do next season.
I completely agree. For Evans, I think for him, getting a little stronger, working on his defense, which he did, he improved the entirety of the season. He got better and better and better defensively. He was able to get, a lot of open shots with the way he shoots and also the way that, Shire ran things for him, especially those flare screens. He was amazing there. So, yeah, I'd love to see him come back for another season. It'd be great for Shire to have that.
All right, decisions have to be made by a lot of people. We'll see if freshmen also are added to the current expectations for next year's squad. We'll continue that conversation when we return after our final break here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you, friends, so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and your first watch here today on the program. Make sure after this that you go and check out the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level. Get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every single day. We're just a few weeks away, and this is where you need to get locked in for the NFL Draft. So find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. The aforementioned Brian Horace is spending time with us on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. We're talking about this freshman class for Duke, setting up next season's squad. We've got the Boozer twins, Nicholas and Minnie. Those 3 guys participated in the McDonald's All-American game, and then this week they've been able to get some work with Team USA at the Nike Hoop Summit, definitely being well recognized for what they were able to do as high school players.
Yeah, without a doubt. You have to love this class going in. Shire continues to recruit size, versatility, skill, and all of those guys really can play multiple positions, have a wide variety of skill sets. They're all able to shoot the ball well. They're all able to really great passers. So yeah, you got to love that recruiting class coming.
Yeah. Shelton Henderson's the 4th member of the recruiting class. He's the lone composite 5-star rated recruit who did not get an invite to the McDonald's All-American game. So you hate it for him. There's only one guy that was left out, and it was our guy coming to Duke. I'm sure that'll put a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and you deservedly so. I think he's going to be a big player for the Blue Devils.
Oh, I agree completely. I think he's the kind of player that they really could have used this past season. A guy that does the dirty work. A guy that can rebound, has that strong frame, and can get to the bucket. I mean, he was recruited by Houston as well, so that makes you wonder if if he's not, one of those guys that's also in the Kelvin Sampson mold of player.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think he's going to be a big-time playmaker for the Duke team. And then the other player worth noting, Nate Ament is a top 5 recruit in the country right now. Many people want him to play basketball for their team. At one point, we were set to have a college decision made by him at that McDonald's All-American game. He's delayed that decision now, and it's going to come at a time to be determined. Going to probably surprise people when he makes that decision to announce, but Duke is very much so in the running still, and I think he'd be a big addition to the squad.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a guy that's listed as 6'9". He's more like 6'10".
Yeah, he's huge.
I mean, and a guy that has that kind of offensive skill set, really, really good shooter, more of a perimeter player than a power forward, I think. I think he fits well in what Shire does. I mean, he's a guy that can play power forward, small forward. You can put him at the second guard spot, small forward. He's supremely talented.
So we will see if he makes that decision to ultimately commit to Duke. And then our focus turns into the transfer portal. We hit home runs in this spot last year, Brian. What are you expecting the case to be in that regard when you look at the portal for Duke going into this upcoming season?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it's going to depend on if we lose anybody to the portal.
Sure.
If we don't, then you're talking about, 10 players, I think.
Right.
So anybody that you do get is going to be more of a just in case, break glass type of player.
Yeah.
So maybe a backup big, because obviously both Patrick Gongba and Malik Brown have had health issues over the past couple of seasons. So,
right.
I think you go there if you end up losing, either Evans or Foster. I think you have to get at least a guard, maybe 2 from the portal. So I think the best way for Duke to go if they don't lose anybody is to just get that backup big. But sometimes the way to win the portal is to not ever have to even dip your foot in.
Yeah, without a doubt. Then you don't have to worry about it because 2 years ago, you're right, Duke didn't lose anybody. So then the squad was able to come back. You had that continuity moving forward. The only players that they had lost were players who made the decision to go off to the NBA and to that next level or ran out of eligibility. So love that. Good stuff there. So looking at this Duke team going into next season, many people are starting to put out their way too early top 25s and that sort of thing. I don't want to go there necessarily, Brian, other than to make the point. What's nice to see is that many people believe this is still going to be a top 10, top 15 team that John Shire will be able to put together.
Without a doubt. I mean, he's, shown himself to be a master of, team building, recruiting, putting the best players on the floor when that need arises. He's shown that he can coach. He's shown that he can, offensively and defensively, he knows, what the priorities need to be. So and you have to look at it. He's one of the best coaches in America currently. And he's shown that for 3 years straight. So
we love that. Good stuff for Coach Shire with what he's been able to do for sure. All right, as we start to wrap up here today, I do want to get your thoughts quickly on this. A lot of people have been kind of sending messages our way, and then here at Locked On, we're well aware of the sports calendar. This weekend, we will see the NBA regular season come to a close, and yet again, Brian Horace, the Duke Blue Devils, have their handprint all over what's going on at the next level. Jayson Tatum and the Boston Celtics, first and foremost, reigning champs, and they've got a title to dethrone once the regular season comes to a close here this weekend. And Tatum, man, he's turning it up. He's taking it up to a next level.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you look at Boston, that team, it's stacked. The only real question mark they have, obviously, is I think Jaylen Brown is still sort of, hobbled a bit with a knee injury.
Yeah.
I watched the game the other day, I think against the Knicks, and he didn't play a whole lot in that game. And they still were able to take down the team that they'll probably face in the second round if they, they get that far. And they really didn't seem to have that much of a problem with it.
Yeah. You're telling me it's good to have Tatum on your team if your boss
is dealing with your team. And when he's not having a great game, it's good to have Kristaps Porzingis on your team.
Yes. Yeah. No, Boston's looking good. And then another big storyline people are going to be following, of course, is their bitter rival in the league history, the LA Lakers, because that man, JJ Redick, is gearing up for his first run as a postseason head coach. We're talking about Shire and what he's doing in the postseason. Now the whole world's going to have spotlights on what JJ Redick's doing.
Yeah, I think they're like the 3 seed right now.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, I hadn't really been following the NBA all that much. I was shocked when I heard that, and I was like, wow, okay, he's really turned around.
Yeah,
I mean, that wasn't horrible to begin with, but he's made they've made a jump, and obviously, You never really want to bet against Luka and LeBron on the same team. I mean, they're going to be dangerous in the West. A lot of teams are going to have to figure out how to guard those guys.
It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be a lot of Duke basketball players all over the place. So make sure that you keep it right here, and we'll keep you updated on all of that. And also, I want people to make sure they go check out Duke Blogger. Tell us a little bit about your work, Brian, and how people can support you.
Yeah, man. DukeBlogger.com is the website. At DukeBlogger.com on Blue Sky, and on X at Duke Blogger. Let's have a chat.
I love it. All right, we'll talk to you again soon, Brian, okay?
All right, man. Take care.
All right, that's Brian Horace joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Always appreciate his time, insight, and analysis with all things Duke basketball. Go and support his work. Let's see what this Duke roster looks like in the days and weeks to come. That's going to do it for our show here today of Locked On Blue Devils. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.